What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We live it like this could be a final day. We're dreamers. Don't care what the others say. We're doing this in our way. We come alive in the nighttime. There's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. We come alive. We come alive. What's your weakness? What's your type? Somehow I wanna know all about you. Deep connection lights a spark. You already know me when we dance in the dark. We're dreamers. We're living. We're dreamers. We're doing this in our way. We come alive in the nighttime. There's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, 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 we come alive. We come alive. Oh, oh, we come alive. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive in the nighttime. There's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, 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 we come alive. Yeah, we come alive. Oh, 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 we come alive. We come alive.
What's up, everyone? Conrad Neufeld here, and today we are covering real estate TikToks. And of course, I think it would be way more fun to do it with someone else. So I brought along a good friend of mine, Matthew Pfeifer from the Prairie Real Estate YouTube channel. Together, we're going to go through some of these TikToks, really analyze them, hopefully have some fun along the way, and learn something as well. And of course, if you've seen my channel before, if you've seen my content and you're a fan of it, then you should definitely go check out the Prairie Real Estate YouTube channel. He has some fantastic content out there as well. I'm a big fan of it. So I put the link to his YouTube video, or YouTube channel rather, in the description below. You can go ahead and click that. Make sure you subscribe to him as well. And with that, Matthew Pfeifer, welcome to my second ever live event.
I'm excited to be on this event. Thanks very much for the awesome introduction. Yes, I'm Matthew Pfeifer. I'm actually a real estate agent in Regina, and I've got the YouTube channel Prairie Real Estate, and I like to educate people about the real estate market, but also the process of buying, process of selling, and just educate and answer as many questions as possible. And that's always been the focus. There's never pretty listing videos or use me because I'm awesome type stuff. It's all teaching you about real estate.
But they should use you because you're awesome, right?
Well, that would be fantastic.
Right on. Okay, so these videos, I don't know all of them. I've seen a couple of them already, I'm sure. But they usually fall into three categories. So there's going to be some things that people have done well, some things that people have done bad as far as advice, and some just generally funny ones as far as like commentary on the current real estate market. So we'll go through those, we'll play them, and we'll comment on them as we go. I had somebody put them together for me, so there's a whole slew of them. So I haven't seen a lot of them myself.
I'm almost a little nervous because I have no idea what we're going to be doing. I don't even like, I'm not a big TikTok guy. The only TikToks I look at is dog videos. So I have not seen a single real estate one yet.
Yeah, well, I guess this is going to be your foray into TikTok on real estate. I think here's the thing: there's not a whole lot of really bad ones. There are some bad ones, but there's not a whole lot of really bad ones as far as I know, because like TikTok is vicious. You put something on there, and if you have said something stupid, they tear you apart, and then usually the creator like deletes it real quick. So you got to kind of like watch for them. But yeah, so I'll fire up the first
just like
one
the
here.
YouTube comment section.
Kinda, except more vicious. Like there's far more responsive. Like TikTok, you can kind of blow up fast and blow up in not the good sense, if you get what I'm saying.
Okay. Crash and burn. It's good to know.
Crash and burn. So I'm gonna queue up our first one here. So let's give this a listen.
Let's go.
So today I'm showing a beautiful studio apartment priced at $1 million. Here it is. Let's go ahead and take a tour. All right. So, as you can see here, it's like a bed and bath, pretty easy commute. And it looks like I'm getting an offer right now, $500,000 above asking price. So today I'm
that sounds like a lot of places in Canada right now. Vancouver and Toronto would come to mind. Yeah, that's kind of what's been going on.
Doesn't that make you relive the past, 12 months of your life?
Yeah, last 18 months has been crazy. I mean, here in Regina, we're obviously not nearly that busy, but there's places in Toronto I know of. Actually, I think it was 37 offers, and it sold for 150 over asking. Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the largest I saw was like, I was dealing with a client out in Vancouver and not Vancouver, Toronto. And this is like 4 or 5 months ago. So it's still crazy now as it was back then. But they went and they put an offer into place, and they think what the realtor did was like list it like well under market to like try to like get people to bid on it and then get like some like over ramp past what it actually is worth.
A lot of that happened. Yeah,
it screws things up though on the mortgage broker side, because the lenders, they see the listing and they're like, my God, this thing is listed for $950. Why did you offer $1.4 million? You know what I mean? Like you're overpaying 50 grand, but of course you get an appraisal. It's like, oh, it's actually 1.2. But then, I mean, I would hate to be an appraiser in today's market, because my gosh, that's got to be
tough. It would be really, really tough with how crazy things are.
Comparables, like what do you even draw on? It's nuts. All right, here's another one.
Guru exposed. Okay.
Yeah. I actually have seen this one before. This one, do you know this guy?
No, I have no idea.
What is his name? Ty Lopez. So so that was the guy in my garage.
Garage, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, do you know what's better than all these cars? Knowledge.
Yep.
That's how he would say it. So, and I always got a kick because I watched this guy for I even watched some of his like course material, and I mean, he's not wrong in a lot of the things that he says, but he's not always right either. Like he's always close to being right, but not like the full way kind of thing. So you'll see what I mean even on this clip itself.
I'm curious. I'm actually curious about your real estate chops. All right. So give me the formula for a cap rate. Can you define what a cap rate is?
So let's talk about real estate for a second. Let's
No. Define the formula of a cap rate. Do you know what a cap rate is?
Absolutely. Cap rate is it's like ROI in the stock market. They call it cap rate.
No,
it's very similar.
Formula for a cap rate.
Yep. All right, John, can I say one thing on real estate?
Ty, you cannot teach a real estate course, and I love you, bro.
John.
But you cannot teach a real estate course if you can't tell me the formula of a cap rate.
Who teaches my real estate course, John?
I don't know.
Oh, so you don't know? I don't teach my real estate course. I interviewed the top real estate investors that I know.
Oh, come on.
Real estate. What's the blueprint? How can you get started?
I'm curious.
I got to get one of those whiteboard or easel board things. That's how I should do my videos.
So like I said, he's close on a lot of things, but like, yeah, his whole definition of cap rate, his whole definition of whatever. I mean, it's close-ish, but it's not what a cap rate is. I
Yeah,
think
I think if you're not in the commercial world, most people would have no idea what a cap rate is, and
true.
understanding whether higher or lower is better depending on who you are.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. That's a good point right there, right? Because some people I know, they're like, "Oh, I'll only do it if it's a 6% cap rate," and then you talk to someone in Toronto who's like, "You moron! Like every asset's going to be 3.2, 3.6% as far as a cap rate." And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's funny, but I think it's more so than anything a good commentary on the fact that online there are a lot of people and a lot of professionals or experts or whatever willing to give lots of advice, and some will even charge you for it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the crap that they're spewing is accurate. Correct. Yeah. Yep. I just love though that he tries to change the topic. It's like, let's talk about real estate. It's like, no.
You got to deflect, right? If you don't know the answer, you got to deflect.
But I'm like, but he's teaching, like he teaches a commercial real estate course. So it's not even like he's
101.
Yeah. It's very basic, as you can tell, because he can't even go into like the really, really in-depth stuff. But yeah, no, I find that one quite funny.
Of a cap rate. Do you know what a cap rate is?
Absolutely.
The next one here.
Said the BRRRR strategy and
BRRRR strategy. Okay.
Oh yeah. You could hear that, could you?
Yep.
Okay, this is going to hurt a lot of feelings, but it has to be said. The BRRRR strategy in real is so stupid. I have a million people per week asking me about the strategy. If you don't know what BRRRR is, it's an abbreviation for buying a property, renovating it, refinancing it, renting it out, and repeating. There's so many bad premises to this whole strategy. One, when you're buying a property, this whole thing takes a lot of time. It's not scalable. You might be able to do this once or twice a year. If you want to get 20 properties by the time you're 80 years old, do this strategy. But here's what's wrong with it. And I've seen it happen to so many people. One, you buy a property. Two, you have to remodel it. In order to remodel it, you're going to have to spend thousands of dollars in order to get it to a remodel and to appraise at a value higher than what you get. The whole point of this strategy is for you to be able to get your money out through a cash out refinance. So here's a strategy. You buy an $80,000 property. You go, let's say you spend another $20,000 in remodeling it. Now you got $100,000 in this property. Great. But now you have to put a tenant in a property that you just spent $20,000 remodeling. That's bad idea, number one. I don't care how well you screen a tenant. I'm the number one proponent for screening tenants and getting good Section 8 tenants, but it doesn't matter. They're never going to treat your property as well as you're going to treat it. And there's going to be wear and tear. There's going to be kids. There's going to be dogs. There's going to be damage to that property at some point. And I don't understand why anybody would put a tenant in a property they just spent tens of thousands of dollars renovating. Two, you now have to go refinance that property. And by the way, you got to say a couple Hail Marys to the appraiser gods and hope that they appraise at a value higher than what you paid for it in order for you to get that cash out during that refinance. So not only did you spend 30 days waiting to close on that property, you spent probably another 2 months waiting to renovate it. And now, oh, by the way, you have to then refinance it, which is another 30 days. So you're waiting minimum 3 to 4 months on one property that you then have to hope that you can get the cash out for. And then to top it all off, you've just pulled all the equity out of that property. So let's say you rented that property for $1,000 originally, and your mortgage before you renovated it was maybe $600. You're making, $400 a month cash flow. That's great. What happens when you get that new loan at a higher valuation? Your mortgage is now probably $800 or $900. So not only do you not have any more cash flow on that property, but now the strategy is calling for you to go and do that shit all over again. So if you do this twice a year, if that, then you have now 2 properties that aren't cash flowing, that are remodeled really well, and now you have tenants that have the risk of wrecking your unit. Long story short, don't do the BRRRR strategy. Don't do it. It will save you so much time and headache if you avoid making this mistake. And I know it's a cute little abbreviation. I know a bunch of people have pushed it, but don't do it. Okay.
Okay, BRRRR. Yeah, it can be done. I've seen it done.
Yep.
You're banking on a lot of things going right, for sure. And if things go wrong, you can get caught holding the bag. I mean, that's investment in general, but yeah, he's got some accurate points there in terms of a lot of things have to go right in order for you to get things work out. And yeah, you hear it probably a lot in some very aggressively hot appreciating markets with extremely high rental demand, where you can get really good rental rates. I know in my market, it can be a challenge. I've seen it done, but same thing for you. It's really tough to do. And I would call more normal markets. And yeah, got to get a lot of things to go right. And if something gets wrecked or you get, hooked up along the way, tripped up, there could be a problem.
Yeah, or like like I've seen people, because he's right in the sense that you're putting a tenant who's not going to care about that property nearly as much as you do, right? They don't care. So like I've seen it work where the property that the person is buying is just like so beat up and so destroyed that they're not bringing it up into immaculate
bring it up to livable
territory.
standards.
They're breaking it up to livable.
Yeah,
and if you do that,
you got
that makes more sense. But I've also seen
be able to do the reno.
Right, 100%. Yeah, you have to be knowledgeable enough to do it.
Yeah.
And the problem too is you have to be knowledgeable enough to, when you go into it, make sure that you don't have other hidden surprises that might cost you way more than your initial estimate.
Those houses, if the right ones that need that rental, they're going to have that anyways. So you got to budget for that as part of your strategy that, hey, there's going to be some hiccups along the way and we're going to find things that are going to cost us more money. So you got to have a budget for that. And that's, again, like, all of these things have to go right. And if they do, this can be an effective strategy, but they all have to go right.
Like, oh my gosh, we just found bats,
Yeah,
exactly. And they're protected species. So you can't even just kill them off. You can't exterminate them. You got to like remove them. And there's costs. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of things that could go wrong. I just think, and like every time I'm talking with my clients, because there are times where it works and where it doesn't work. Like if someone says, hey, I'm going to do the whole BRRRR thing, right? Like the moment someone talks to me and says, we're going to BRRRR this, like, you can tell that they got like hooked on the alliteration, not the alliteration, but the acronym, right? Like it's a buzzword to them, right?
Well, it works. I mean, everybody, you just apply the formula and you become an instantaneous multi-millionaire landlord. That's all you have to do. It's plug and play.
Yeah. Well, if I wish that was the case, right? Because like when I talk with people, I'm like, hey, look at, like, you have two choices. You're either going to renovate this property and flip it, or you're going to live in, or you're going to like rent out the property. Like it's either one or the order, and like really figure out which of the two it is. And if it's somewhere in between, and that's what a BRRRR tries to do, is it tries to be somewhere in between, right? If that's the case, there are, like I said, there are properties and there are cases where it does work, but they often require a lot more cash than people expect to, right? Because guess what? That lender is not going to pay you to tear down the house. Right. So you're going to have to usually put more down. You're going to have to put like this. There's a huge cash component to it than just as easy as it makes people think.
Well, I think also too, a lot of people don't realize, as you know, once you get past typically 4 properties, now you're in commercial lending, and that's a whole different ball game than residential lending.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then you got to know what a cap rate is.
Yeah, that's true. Then you can know cap rates, and it's more expensive typically commercial lending. So
it is.
That also changes your cash flow equation.
Yep. That's it. Or I should say it can be more expensive. It actually, in some cases, can actually be cheaper. But it depends on a whole lot of factors. That's a whole other world.
People think they're just going to line this up and do 10 in a row and get 10 doors. Yeah. Once you get into that commercial lending and you have to get to that threshold, that changes things.
Big time. Big time. Ready for the next one?
Okay.
It's a short one. It's what is it, 13 seconds? Oh, let me restart that.
I got no audio.
Oh, you got no audio? Oh, you know why? Because I muted the audio so I could queue up the next one while you were talking. That's the beauty of live. Let's try that again.
Let's go.
Real estate advice?
Yeah. Sell now. It's all gonna crash. Don't buy from Aviva.
You're mean. Real estate.
I think that's her channel, Aviva. So he's mocking his own daughter.
Well, now it's all going to crash. How many times have you heard that, Conrad?
Way too freaking many.
I think way too many. I do a market update video, that's there's at least one comment that says, this is the peak. It's coming down from here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's funny because, just give me a second. I'm queuing up that one. I think it's funny because there are people who will say, oh, it's going to crash. It's going to crash. It's going to crash. Then I was talking with, like, let's use Vancouver as an example. Okay. Talking with a mortgage broker out there. And he's like, look at the Vancouver market, right? He's like, there were people in the 80s who said, man, this thing is going to crash. Like thing is going to crash. And what he eventually pointed out was that in the core of downtown, basically Vancouver, the real estate prices have basically doubled almost every 5 years, essentially. And that still is true today as it was 110 years ago. It has doubled almost every 5 years for basically 110 years. So his commentary on it was like, you know, you could try to time the market all you want, but you're probably going to lose. Like, there is no such thing as timing the real estate market. Either be convicted in the fact that you're going to purchase real estate or just stay out of real estate, one or the other, right? Like, you got to grin and bear the good time and the bad times. The best explanation I ever heard about real estate was it's like someone doing a yo-yo on an escalator, you know, like there are ups and downs, like the yo-yo, but
it
the
always
overall
trends
trend is
in one direction.
Yeah.
And anybody who says they can time the market and tell you exactly when to buy and sell, they're lying. It does not exist. If you got lucky, and you got lucky when you managed to sell or buy at the right time, you got lucky. It happens, but I have yet to find a single person that's been able to repeatedly do that over and over and over again. It's just what happens. And like you said, you got to commit. If you're buying, you're buying. And I always tell my buyers, look, you're buying a house because it's going to improve your lifestyle and you're going to be there long term. So you got to be willing to accept that there's potentially some ups and downs along the way.
Yeah, and that's good advice, because I do genuinely think people think that if they do enough research, if they do enough whatever, that they can like both time their purchases and their sales. I've seen it both ways, right? Where people are like, oh, I'm not going to buy now because it's going to crash. And the irony of that is because in 2019, so you already know what happens to home prices since 2019. In 2019, I remember sending out an email, and this was like an email to like basically our database, or at least a portion of our database, and being like, hey, now's the time to buy, because we had like a whole influx of applicants that couldn't buy like in previous years, that we had like made this list of them and said, hey, like, we'll review your pre-qualifications. We'll make sure that you can buy right now. And I remember getting emails back from people being like, no, we're just not going to buy right now because we believe the market's going to crash and we'll buy then. And I was like, no, guys, like, don't try to time the market. Don't try to time the market. Just like
buy when it makes sense for you.
Yeah. Buying it. If you're like, hey, I'm going to be in this city for like the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then maybe it makes sense. Like, if you're planning on leaving in 2 years, don't even bother.
No,
right? Like, totally makes sense then. Like, there are times where renting makes sense and times when buying makes sense. But I'm like, don't try to time your purchase. That's dumb. And then, and of course I'm blunt, so I say it exactly like that. Yeah, sure enough, 2019, and now it's 2021, and home prices up.
Well, and too late. I've had people say, well, I'm going to sell my house in the spring and buy in the winter.
Seasonal timing.
We do see some weather cyclical changes where typically we do see softer markets in the winter.
Sure.
Prices come down a little bit. Okay. So then you're going to rent for 6 or 8 months and then hope that good house shows up in December, which, I mean, you know what it's like. There's a significant decline in the number of listings available in December and January. So
for sure,
most of the time, especially if you are going to be selling a house and then buying because you're moving up, typically you're doing a move up. You're moving you're doing a sideways move in terms of if it's an appreciating market, you're selling and appreciating and buying and appreciating.
Right.
Same thing if it's declining. You very rarely will buy and sell in different markets.
Right. Yeah. You sell high and buy high, or sell low and buy low, basically. Yep. Right. Hopefully you can just be on the good side of either of those exchanges.
Yep. Ooh, don't buy the
house.
Yeah, we got audio, right?
In the neighborhood. Instead, buy the ugliest one in a nice neighborhood. Because you'll be able to buy it at a discount. Once you fix up the property, you get to capture all the equity. Your once ugly house now worth as much as the nicest one on the block. Remember to think like an investor, not a homeowner, if you want to get rich. Don't buy the nice.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that works if you're able to and willing to do all the work
in the neighborhood. Instead, buy.
Shoot, this friggin' audio, my bad.
Again, if you're the type that can do that work, yeah, it works. This is maybe a little more of a end user buyer perspective, but I tell people when you're buying a house, try to find that good house that's in a quiet neighborhood, good location, that is appealing to a wide range of buyers, because even if the market goes completely upside down, good houses in good neighborhoods still sell well.
Right. Yep.
Bad houses on busy streets that have terrible curb appeal, they take the beating first. Whereas if you back a school or you back green space, you're on a little cul-de-sac, that type of thing. At least our markets are obviously very similar. That 1,000 to 1,200 bungalow, 1960s build, 3-bedroom up, 2 bathrooms, like those things sell all day long if they're in good shape, because there's a ton of people looking for that.
I think too, though, because this is pretty common advice as far as like the internet is concerned, right? Like everyone thinks there's some like real estate genius when they're like, buy the shitty house and make it good, right? And it's like, there's so many of that, at least that I've seen.
It can be done. Absolutely.
It can be. I think though, and this is the largest problem, is that people usually grossly overestimate their skill set, usually.
And underestimate the amount of work.
Correct. And it would baffle you who makes those mistakes, right? Like I know some people who are like past clients who have been very, very, like they're very, very well established in trades. They should, in theory, know exactly how long things take. They should, in theory, but that's the problem is they're like, oh, I'm going to come home after work and I'm
exhausted from 8
I'm going to build the basement or I'm going to build the whatever, right? And then what ends up happening is they come home from work and they're like, I'd rather a beer. And then their 2-month, project turns into like a 9-month project, turns into a whatever, right? So,
and I've shown a lot of houses that you can tell it's exactly what somebody did. Buy what they thought was the crappiest house in the street or the neighborhood, and they're going to fix it up, and they're being foreclosed on. I have been through a lot of those houses over the years.
And some of them aren't even their fault. Like sometimes just stuff happens. Like
stuff gets away.
Yeah, like 8 years ago, and this is more of a tragic story than anything else, but like 8 years ago, we had a client of ours that was building their own house. And so of course they were living, I think with the in-laws, it doesn't even matter where they were living, but they were living off site. And then he was building his own house because he was going to save a bunch of money. And honestly, he had the skill set. So it's not even like I was confused why he was making that decision, but he went and he was building his own house. And while he was building, the roof fell off and broke his back. And of course, because he's building his own house, he's not at work. There's like all sorts of insurance. All sorts of insurance stuff that goes with that. Right. And so, he had no workers' comp. He had no whatever. Right. And now what do you do? So it ended up being the poor guy. He ended up having to walk away from his walk away is a terrible, that's not even an intended joke.
That's a really bad joke on it.
That was not intended. He had to step away from his, I can't even stop myself. He had to step away from his house because he could not finish it. Costs ramped up and then he was just done.
And the market would have been turning then too.
And it was
8 years ago was kind of the peak of our market and dropped for 8 years after that.
It was bad. And so it made more sense for him to walk away from his dream home. And I just remember, conversations, and it's like the one thing I hate, when you're on a phone call or whatever, and you can literally hear the other person crying on the end. Went through a lot of that with the pandemic, with people unable to afford their mortgages. But it's like that guy was like in tears, and I'm like, dude, and I tried everything I could do to help the guy, but it's just, it didn't make financial sense, right? Because now he had to wait for insurance to kick in. He still had like payments, and it was awful stuff. Oh, see, look at that. I finally got rid of the audio for that one. Okay, here we go. And go. Here we go. Oh, or not.
So a lot of people have been asking me how I got a 2-story apartment in New York City for only $800 a person. So I figured I'd just show. So this is the downstairs. Nothing crazy. It's all we need. Nice little couch. And then if you look right there, there's the stairs, and then there's upstairs. So a lot of people have been asking.
I gotta stop. Where did he say stairs were?
Right there.
Look at these stairs. That's amazing.
I've seen a variation of this one, but it's gunshots in the background. That's why it's $800 a month.
But I think that's funny because there are certain representations on listings where it's like, hey, there's this and there's this, and you look at it and you're like, that can't be true. That can't be real.
I saw one and it was advertised as having a master ensuite, and I kid you not, they had just put a toilet in the closet. It was
Well,
an ensuite, though.
I,
And the best
I-
part was it had the sliding doors too.
well, it's all a matter of perspective, Matt. You just gotta. Oh
and
my
and there was
gosh,
carpet in the closet still too.
that is and this carpet in the bathroom.
Well, the bathroom was just the closet. Literally, they had just plumbed in a toilet into the closet.
Yeah, but they never got rid of the
No, they just left the carpet with the sliding doors and the mirrors on the front.
That's fantastic. That's amazing.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's way too funny. All right, I'm gonna pull up the.
I've got a
next one.
whole photo album of weird things I've seen in showings, and maybe one day I'll do a video on just the weird things and the photos I've taken over the years.
Oh, please do. Oh, what's funny? So we had a client one time that, and this had actually nothing to do with the property, which was funny. But there was a contentious in the issue between the original offer and the counter offer, and it had to do with a what was it? A coat rack, and it's like coat rack not included, and so that the counter came back, no, we need the coat rack, and like they had this disagreement on this coat rack. So of course, me and my business partner Mitchell were like, "What in the hell does this coat rack look like? Like this has to be a crazy, amazing special coat rack or something. Like maybe it's a fix of the property and would cause damage to remove it, or like." Turns out the owners, which makes sense why they wanted to keep it, it was carved. Like it was just a piece of wood, but it was like carved and sanded or whatever. And it was like something that their grandpa had made them. And the grandpa had since passed. And so that made sense.
Yeah.
But the buyer wanted it because they didn't know why they wanted to keep it so bad. So the buyer wanted it because the seller wanted it.
And now we're fighting over a damn coat rack.
And now they're fighting over. And then once they realized, like once the seller or once the buyer rather realized why they wanted it, they're like, oh, never mind. Yeah, we don't need that. We thought it was like a fix of the house or whatever. But I was just like, and for a while there, everyone was going over, like arguing over this coat rack. I'm like, how important could this coat rack be? Like
exactly.
The sale is going to fall apart over like what? Like a $250 coat rack at most? No, worse. Homemade coat rack. All right, here's the next one.
Well, I can see where this is going to go.
Yeah, I've actually seen this one, and this one's friggin' hilarious.
I think this one looks familiar.
Is that Apple?
Oh, yes, I have seen this.
Have you seen this one? It's fantastic.
Excuse me. Is that Apple for sale? Yeah, we're about to put it on sale right now, actually. Well, I'm in the market, so tell me about your Apple. Why should I buy it? Nice try. Okay, people, here's how this is going to work. I have an Apple here. The highest bidder's going home with this. I want all bids in the next 2 minutes, then we're closing it. Bidding starts at $5.
Feeling pretty confident there, huh? I mean, don't you think?
$10.
He said starting at 5.
15.
Is this a new Apple?
Yeah, just listed. I'm pre-qualified. I'll pay cash. I got cash. 20, 30, 40. No, just make it 45.
Is it even worth that?
50. I don't know. Please, this is the Apple I've tried to buy.
Could I at least see it up close?
Nope, it's an Apple. You know what it is. You either want it or you don't. I'll take it for 100.
What? I'm from California. It's the cheapest Apple I've ever seen.
120.
Why did I do that? I don't know.
That basically encapsulated, I would say, February through June of our market.
It got nuts. Yep.
Utter insanity. And we were, at least like here in Regina and in Saskatoon, wasn't crazy. I mean, I heard of a guy out in Ontario, they had 95 offers on a house. How do you
95?
95? Like, let's assume you're going to take at least 10 to 15 minutes to read the offer. Like, that's not how it's going to go, but let's assume you did. How many hours are you spending just reviewing 95 offers?
That's crazy. That is nuts. Well, it's 25 hours. That's the answer. It's 25.
It would take way too long to do all that. And yeah, like even when my wife and I we bought in April, April, we took possession and this house came up. We liked it. We were pretty excited for it. We booked the first showing that we could on it and put an offer in at full price. And they said no.
Wow.
And which for our market was like, are you crazy? You just got a full price offer and you said no. And not even a counter, literally just no. And so then that evening I was doing showings in the neighborhood. My wife had gone to work and I drove by the house a few times and there was literally people lined up out the door, like cars. I'd be 2 in the driveway, 2 down the street, 2 around the corner. And I knew all the agents because I could see their cars and everything like that. And every time I drove by, everybody just shuffled up one. And I didn't tell my wife this because I knew she would panic. if she knew what was going on, and it was a multiple offer situation. We ended up getting the house, and I told her after about all this. I wasn't sleeping well. I was pretty restless that night, and she was okay. Well, now that makes sense, but I wasn't going to tell you because I knew you would freak out.
Like, and so imagine this: you and I are both very experienced as far as like buying and selling houses. We've been doing it for a decade plus. Could you imagine being a first-time home buyer going through that experience? Like, it's already stressful to begin with. Like, my God, going and seeing that would be just. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of the emotions got into some people's bids, and people would be like there's some realtors that'll be like, you got to do a no conditions bid.
That's
right?
the norm, and unfortunately, a lot of markets in Canada.
I know,
that's
and it's dangerous.
The exception.
And it's dangerous. Like in Toronto, it's crazy. I'm like, I'll have clients that will be like from Toronto, for instance, and they'll be like, yeah, we're putting in a no conditions offer. I'm like telling you right now, do not do that. If you lose the house, I don't care. Just do not do that, because I've seen it go so bad, and it's not good. It's
so frustrating, but unfortunately, that is basically the reality now in a lot of markets, and it's frustrating. I get it, and there's no real easy solution to this, because there's 30 other people that want to buy that house.
Mm-hmm.
We need more houses. That's
so
really what
so how about like the Bill of Rights that may see existence, may not? I mean, I have my doubts, but the particular says that you have a right to an inspection, you have a right to. I seem like I'm a big fan of that because it makes sense. But what's your thoughts on it?
Well, you already do have a right to a home inspection. You can choose to do one.
I mean, making it a legal right as far as like it's required.
Making it mandatory.
Sorry, mandatory. Yes,
that's the thing. They say we're going to make it a legal right to home inspection. Well, you do. You have.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
I don't know. Like, I always encourage my buyers to do a full set of inspections on the property, because we've seen it go wrong. We have, sadly, so almost the luxury of being able to do that. Whereas that's just not the reality in a lot of other markets.
Like Vancouver and Toronto specifically, you're saying?
But that Halifax,
Halifax in there too.
Montreal, like there's a lot of areas right now where that's just the norm.
Well, Montreal never used to be that bad. So that's got to be
Montreal has been really cooking along the last year and a half.
4 or 5? Yeah, okay, there you go. I was going to say like 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't that bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, even when I do inventory numbers, so 5 years ago, there would be 20,000 houses for sale in Montreal this time of year. There's 11,000 right now.
Whoa. Oh.
Ottawa was 5,000. There's 1,000, that type of thing, right?
Yeah, so entire inventory shrink. It's not even like peak demand. It's just lower inventory.
Yeah. So,
wow.
I guess if you want to make it mandatory for home inspections, I guess we could do that.
So dangerous not to do that. You know what I mean?
It is.
But I guess you're right. What other options are there? There's not.
I know, and it's one of those things that, okay, is that the direction we have to go? I mean, that to me seems like a band-aid solution, though, because now everybody has to have a home inspection. Then the next, war of escalation is, like you see it, no financing condition,
right?
Or no this or no that, right? The solution is get more houses. We need more people. We need more houses for people. And, like we see it in our market, everybody has home inspections. Even in mine, I was multiple offers and full suite of inspections because there's still enough inventory out there that there is the ability for the buyer to just go, now let's go buy another house instead of playing these games.
Yeah. And I think you're right on the inventory side of things. Unfortunately, that's not a quick fix. Like I used to specialize in construction financing, and you know how long it takes to go from like start to finish on a new build? It's like 5 to 7 years by the time they buy the lot, zone the lot, service the lot, develop the lot, like by the time all that's done,
decade at least to solve the problem. We needed to start working on this a decade ago.
Exactly.
But that is the solution, and it's long term. It'll take a long time to do it. It's a lot of hard work. And it's a lot of work and a lot of time for something that in an election cycle of a 4-year political term is not maybe palatable, even though I think that's the right solution.
So what you're saying is Matthew Pfeifer for Prime Minister?
No, I don't want to be that public.
No, I think I would hate that job, to be quite honest.
And I have a political science degree.
Oh, do you? I didn't even know that. Oh, you missed your calling. Wasted it on being a fantastic realtor. All right, here's the next one.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is realtor speak right here.
Yeah.
Cozy home. Yeah, it's tiny. Whenever I see listings in the realtor comments and they say it needs TLC, I tell my buyers it's a piece of crap. Like I don't even have to go look at it. I know what the realtor speak is. Yeah, all that stuff is it's 100% true.
Like when people say to me, "Hey, what does TLC mean?" I'm like, total load of crap. Like,
ooh, that's a good
I'm
one.
like, that's what TLC means. It's a total load of crap. Because yeah, that's usually, I've seen some pretty creative listings though, where people will be like, I don't even know, like, yeah, they'll say comfy bedroom, and then you'll be like, what the hell does a comfy bedroom mean? And then you'll realize that the master bedroom is like smaller than like you can fit a bed, and like that's the master bedroom, right? Like it's comfy.
When I do listing appointments, one of the things I talk about is you've got to make the house feel bigger than it is. So it's 1,000 square feet, make it feel like it's 1,200. Because I've had people say, wow, this house is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. There's way more space. I'd like to buy it. I have not had a single person go, oh, this house is way smaller than I thought it was. I feel claustrophobic and cozy. I definitely want to buy it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. How about for like with pictures and stuff like that? Because I went to a listing one time, and this was a commercial property that I was looking at. And I looked at it, and online it looked amazing. It was like a 12-suiter, and I was like, this looks great. Like that looks like something I would buy. And it looked great. I went into it, and I was like, my God, these rooms are small. Like, and I was like, and the condition was like terrible compared to like what I was led to believe on this paragraph in the pictures.
So
I'm not kidding.
Wide angle lens I shouldn't use.
Yeah. So you make it look bigger.
Actually, time out. I instruct my photographers very clearly when they do photos, make it realistic. I tell them I want people to walk in and go, yes, this is what I thought it was going to look at. Of course, we need to make sure it's attractive. It's got to look good. But one of the worst things is you go to a house and you think it's going to be an 8 and it shows like a 6. And I've been through that. In fact, actually, one of the houses before we bought the house, we did. My wife had that house before we looked at it. The last house we looked at before we bought the one, we looked at it and went, wow, this, like, it looked like a 9. It looked really good. We went through
on the listing.
We were in that house for 5 minutes. Yeah, on the photos. I don't think we were in the house for 5 minutes. And we just turned and walked out. And I phoned one of my friends, another agent in the business, and she asked how it went because she was going to show people that house that evening, knowing that I had gone in there, knowing that we would buy it if it was the right house. And she was basically just like, am I wasting my time? Are you guys going to write an offer on this house? And I said, well, I'm going to let you go see it, and I want you to phone me. And she phones me and she goes, shows like a 9 or looks like a 9, shows like a 6. I'm like, yep, that's exactly why we were out 5 minutes. She goes, I think we were 7 minutes in the house.
Yeah, like, and that's infuriating. Like, so we drove to Regina. So I drove 2.5 hours to go see this property because I'm like, this looks good. Like, we had a deposit on it and everything else already at that point. And I was like, we'll go see it. And like, I remember coming back and I was like, what the hell was I looking at? Like, what? But I went and I reread the listing and I re-looked at the photos and I was like, frick, I'd go see it again. Like, no,
you got excited again.
Yeah, I was like, this is like, I would buy that. And then, yeah, but I just remember thinking like, man, that whole like old adage where it's like under promise, over deliver, right? Like they're over promising and under delivering it. And in my history of like in marketing and sales, that has never ever worked.
Well, like, and I got a real funny story, and then we'll go to the next one. A friend of mine out in North Bay, Ontario, agent there, and he got a lead on one of his properties where people have looked on realtor.ca and sent an email saying, I'd like to see this property, get more information. And the comment was, F you, you scumbag, you preyed on people's emotions. And I hadn't seen the house, but I read the write-up. It's a very nice write-up describing the property. It was a house that had been in the family for like 30 or 40 years. So he talks about, the family being raised there. Like, I actually thought it was a very nice, heartwarming write-up telling about the story. And I don't know. I didn't see the photos. The photos looked to me like it was fairly reasonable. Knowing this guy, I think, it's going to be kind of what it was described as. But I just thought that was really funny. It was F you, you scumbag. And so I emailed him and said, can you write my listing descriptions from now on? Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess on the flip side of that, if you are so good, if you're such a wordsmith, such a poet, that you elicit that strong of an emotional response, I mean, I can't even be mad at that point. Yeah. That's amazing. Yep. Oh my gosh, that's way too freaking funny. Okay, I'll pull up the next one here.
Oh man, the comments online or the comments that we receive sometimes are amazing.
Yes. Oh, here we go. I love these ones.
How do you start in real estate with little or no cash? It's a question I get all the time. Let me give you my top 3 ways to start in real estate if you don't have any money to start. Number 1, wholesaling requires no real estate license, no money. You don't have to rehab a house, nothing. Number 2 is short-term rental arbitrage. Basically, you get a long-term lease on a property and you rent it out short-term. You can make good money in the middle. And my number 3 way is real estate sales. Become a real estate agent. While I'm not a fan of this for the long term, if you have no money and you need to get started, it's a great way to start. Those are my top 3 ways to get started with no cash. Hit the.
So that's what happened with you, right?
Yeah.
Like you became a real estate agent because you're like, hey, I want to get into this and I got no cash.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's start with the third one, and then I got some commentaries on the first 2.
Surprise, maybe to some people, I as an agent don't actually get a discount on a house. Being a real estate agent, I pay the same price as anybody else does. And people say, "Oh, you know about the houses before." Sometimes, yes. If I phone up my buddy, "Hey, what do you got for new listings coming up?" But when they hit Realtor.ca is the exact same time that they get posted on the MLS system. So typically it's like sometimes there's an hour, 2 or 3 delay, but that's about the most. And I have yet to been able to buy a house with no money down. Again, that's a US video there. I'm guessing by the terminology that they're using.
Yeah. Except
you
for
need to have
wholesaling,
down
rental
payments in
arbitrage.
Canada, full stop. You need to have the proper income ratios and debt ratios. That's just the way it is.
Well, and how about this question, Matt? How much does it cost to become a real estate agent?
Lots. So let's see. My course originally, I think, was about $2,500 or $3,000. And then in Regina, we did an additional course that was another $1,000 or something like that. And then you've got to buy all your material. You've got to get your license. You're going to be into it a fair bit. And then, of course, it really depends what brokerage you're hanging your license with in terms of what your fee structure is.
So like not a no money down option by any means. It's what I think it's funny because as soon as you said real estate, I was like, or become a real estate agent, I'm like, there's no way. Like it is so expensive to like you don't become a real estate agent unless you like truly plan on doing it full time. And even like those that like are part-time, and there's a lot of part-time agents out there, but often they either realize, hey, I got to like change this and go full-time fast to be able to make it work, or I just got to stop being a real estate agent.
We should talk about part-time because when we say that, you and I, that's unique to us. Saskatchewan is one of the very few, I believe it's the only jurisdiction in Canada where you have to declare as a part-time agent.
Interesting.
And you have to put on your business material and everything like that. In other jurisdictions in Canada, you do not. So for us, we have to declare as part-time agents. But in other places, it's not a requirement.
Well, that actually makes sense then, because like I was in Vancouver one time. I was presenting at the National Mortgage Conference out there. I was like one of the breakout speakers or whatever. And I remember taking a cab on my way back home, or back to the hotel, not home, but back to the hotel. And the guy's like, "Oh, what are you here for?" And I told him like, "Oh, I'm speaking at this conference." And he's like, "Oh, I should give you my card. I'm a real estate agent." And I thought, well, that's usually not a good sign. Like maybe like I'm like, unless this guy just started, like if he's 3 to 6 months in, totally get it. Like there's a transition period. I had that transition period. I assume everybody does. Like there's that part, and then there's that moment where you just gotta go for it. But I was like, oh, that's good. Like, how long have you been a real estate agent for? And he's like, oh, about 6 years. And I was like, whoa, like if you were still driving cab, like then you either haven't committed enough to becoming a real estate agent, or you just should let that dream go, right? Like there has to be that point where you just break it off, and it's scary.
Well, but I know in Toronto, there's, I think, about 50,000 agents under the Toronto Real Estate Board. And I saw, would have been 2 years ago, I saw this stat, but it had been fairly consistent. Half of that 50,000 agents had sold 1 or less houses that year.
So they're not surviving, because that's by the time you pay your fees and everything else.
Part-time people that they just want the license to go sell 1 or 2 houses and call themselves an agent, I guess.
There's no money in that though.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Personally.
Like even for me, when I like became a mortgage broker, this is, I had like my honors in business. I had all of that stuff. Right. So I knew numbers well. I remember I was 24. So I'm 34 now. It's been a decade. I was 24. And I remember leaving a 6-figure salary job to go into mortgage brokering. Right. That next year I made 18K and I worked like a dog and I made 18K. Now in hindsight, totally the right move.
So if you're like my dog, you slept on the couch for most of the day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Just kidding. No, but like,
so we gotta update that saying.
Yeah, I worked like I don't know, like a Canadian, I guess. But like I worked hard, and I went from, and I remember like a moment. It was about 6 months in where I was like, did I make the right decision? You know what I mean? Like, what did I do? And so not only is there like lots of cost to like join the industry, although less as a mortgage broker than as a real estate agent, but you know the other costs, the cost, like the opportunity cost of letting other things go, that is probably your biggest cost. So I don't think that's
and then by the time I bought my BMW and my Rolex, and
yes, of course,
and the
things
shoes,
to sell people.
I drive a Volkswagen Golf. I typically wear polos to my showings. This is what I wear out to do my videos. If you go show a house with me, I'm probably wearing a polo.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing. So yeah.
I'm like the cheapest person on the planet. I drive a Chevy Cruze with a cracked window. Like,
no.
So cheap. It's so cheap. There's a reason why I don't meet anybody in person. I'm just but, you know, but then the other two things that he had mentioned there, he had mentioned was it rental arbitrage? Lease arbitrage. Yeah, you do not want to do that. So that concept, for anybody who's not familiar with that, is you go find some building or some house, as an example, that doesn't have any tenants in it, and you lease it from them. Yeah. And you say, I'll release it for the year for like X amount of dollars. And then you go find other people to lease it from you. So you're like basically subleasing, and you just lease it for a higher valuation. Yeah. Incredibly dangerous and incredibly stupid, because that lease that you sign, you are stuck with that lease and you're not beholden to anybody. Like, that person is coming to collect their money, whether or not you have people in there or not. And it's great for that landlord that currently owns the property, because they don't have to worry about vacancy rates. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff, because that's your problem.
Well, look at probably the best example. Worked out really well for them.
Yeah, precisely.
That's what they were doing.
WeWork is I'm not going to recap it here, but if anybody wants to look up how rental arbitrage can go wrong, leasing arbitrage can go wrong, look up WeWork. That's a great reference, because they blew up in fantastic proportion.
Yep.
I don't think that CEO was surfing anymore and missing meetings. And then the first one, what was the first one?
Wholesaling. You want to go through wholesaling? Walk us through wholesaling, and then we'll talk about it.
So wholesaling is kind of like almost like lease arbitrage, in the sense that you don't actually own anything, but you'll find a property, you'll put an offer in on that property, and then before you take possession of it, usually you'll go find someone else to buy it and sell it for a higher value. So I'll find a house for $500,000, take it over to somebody else, and then I'll sell it to you for $515,000. And that difference, that's what I pocket without needing any money down. So from that perspective, he's correct. You can do it with almost zero money, other than good legal contracts, good lawyers, etc. But, well, maybe you could speak to this. I don't think you can do it in most provinces. Can you not? Because I think you have to be, in order to do that, that's considered trading in real estate. You need to be licensed. Am I not correct?
I'm not 100% sure on that. You can assign contracts, though. I know you can.
Can you? So maybe we can get away with it.
I've seen it in new construction, but a lot of builders I've dealt with put right in their contracts, for example, that you're taking possession of this thing, type of thing. So I do see that. And you still need it. You know what it's like. Wow. You need to prove you have an income to even get the mortgage to close on that. So unless you're willing to take the risk that you're going to close on a property that you can't, and take on that lawsuit, which would be a lot of fun. It's not something I would play.
Close it in 10 days before having to remove conditions. That would be your window, is 10 days. And it sounds great. Like, it does sound like this is one of those cases where it truly is what it promises to be, right? Yeah. In that sense, like it's actually pretty clear cut, wholesaling, but the complexities are in the minutia of it. And if you don't have any experience in real estate, you're probably the worst person to take on wholesaling.
Well, and this only works in an incredibly rapidly appreciating market.
Correct. Unless you can unless you review every single property that hits the market and somehow find the one that you're going to, I mean, the amount of work that you've done there, go work at McDonald's, you'll make way more money. like by the time you do all that work, like honestly, it's
well, I get a lot of people too. I've heard this one before is if you find a house that's really underpriced, I'd buy that one. And I tell them, why wouldn't I just buy that house if I knew or felt like it was dramatically underpriced? Why would I take somebody to buy that house if I could just buy it myself? Like that.
Well, and Purple Brick was doing that for a while. Do you remember Purple Brick?
Zillow does it too in the States.
Yeah. So Purple Brick was doing it out of the UK. They came to the United States, and their premise was, you know, we will promise we'll sell your house, basically. Like we'll buy your house. And because they had like the most advanced algorithms as far as what properties were worth and stuff like that. And even them, with their literally hundreds of millions of dollars and their sophisticated algorithms, managed to screw it up. I mean, I'd have to Google to figure out exactly how much they lost, but it was an incredible amount of money.
They got hammered.
They lost 80% of their market, like their money, in like, I think it was like 1 or 2 years. And then now they're just not in the States anymore. So that's why people are like, oh, I don't know who Purple Brick is. It's like, because they're gone. Right. So
they got beat up. Yeah.
They got beat up bad. All right. Here's the next one.
Oh, yes.
If you're broke, it's another one of these. Let's make sure the audio is on. That would always help.
Even if you don't have any money. Let's just say if you want to buy a house that costs $100,000, but you get.
Where do I buy that house?
Yeah, but I like the way he says money. He's got an awesome accent.
Here's how you buy real estate, even if you don't have any money. Let's just say if you want to buy a house that costs $100,000, but you got no money. So what you need to do is you need to go look for hard money or private money lender. You can find this hard money lender company online. Just go ahead and Google them. Typically, they charge between 10 to 12% interest. Private money are typically, you know, your family, your relative, a friend, or someone that you know. Typically, they're an individual, not a company. Let's say you found someone that's going to loan you $100,000 plus the $10,000 it's going to cost to repair the property. Now you're all in on that property for $110,000. Now you owe this private lender $110,000, and let's say you can rent that property out for $1,500 a month. Now you're going to go to the bank and do what's called cash out refi. Then the bank going to send an appraiser to go out to appraise that property to see how much it's actually worth. Let's say the appraiser came out and appraised the property and said it's worth $200,000. Wow. Well, the bank is going to loan you 75% on the appraised value. So now the bank's going to give you $150,000 for that property. Now you're going to have a new loan on this property of $150,000 with the bank. They're going to take this $150,000. They're going to pay off the private lenders, all right, that you owe $110,000 to. That leaves you.
Can we just say this guy must have a magic hammer? Because like, how did he go from $100,000 to $200,000, putting only $20,000 into the property? That's amazing.
10. He put 10 into it.
Was it 10? No,
it was way. 10.
Was it 10? There's no way. Holy shit. That's amazing.
You know what? This guy is 100% right. If you can buy a house at 50% of the value, you're going to make a lot of money. I mean, if I could continually buy houses at 50% off, I probably wouldn't have to sell real estate anymore.
Yeah. In fact, if anyone ever watches, is watching right now or watches this in the future and has one of those properties, you let us know.
Yep.
We're totally on board. We'll help you buy the thing.
I'll just get the checkbook and buy it myself.
100%. Well,
Conrad, you want to
give you a finder's fee
on this one?
Yeah, we'll give you a finder's fee. Like, holy man, that's insane.
So basically, it's the broke version BRRRR. Is that what this is?
Well, it must be though.
Because he's going to rent it out after. This is the broke version of BRRRR.
First of all, what condition is that house in? I mean, obviously, 100,000 is meant to be an example, right?
But yeah, it's easy numbers.
Let's multiply that a little bit. Let's say it's a $400,000 house. So he's buying a $400,000 house, and he's going to put $40,000 worth of rentals into it. And he's going to turn it into 800. Like, just to like really exaggerate that thing. That's amazing. I
got to meet this guy.
All $1,000 net to you.
And here's the other thing. So let's say he says in there, he says, now let's say that the property appraises for 200,000. Okay. Now let's say it doesn't. What situation does that put you in? Because it isn't a good one. You know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't like to be paying 10, 12% money.
Well, plus, so that's the other thing. He mentioned hard money lenders. So a hard money lender is like a non-institutional, non-bank type of lender. So that's more of an American reference than a Canadian reference. We'd probably say private lending is
B lenders.
or B lenders. I mean, even B lenders are above hard money because
Good point.
B lending is even still considered hard money. I mean, not hard money, rather.
Yeah.
So the people who are going to give you these loans, first of all, of $100,000 or so, they require you to have a substantial amount of equity in the property, a substantial amount. Like you're talking like 35, 45, 50% of the value of the property.
You're not getting in zero down.
Yeah. And not only that, not for what it appraises it at. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll try to trick the system. They'll try to say, oh, well, I'm buying it at 100, but the property is actually worth 200. Right. And so therefore I'm at my 50%. That's not how it works. Lenders by law in Canada are required to look at the value of the property or what you're purchasing it for, whichever is less.
Yep.
So if you walk in, I mean, yeah, maybe you do find this amazing home and it's, would be valued at $200K without the rentals, and you're buying it for $100K without the rentals. Perfect. Awesome. That's still a great deal. I would do that deal all day long. But the hard money lenders, they're not going to be able to get involved until you put like $50,000 down, because that's half of the 100. So, so you still need cash, even in that case. But not only that, I mean, unless you can VTB, which is a vendor take back mortgage, which is a whole separate thing, and get the seller to finance, that could actually be a good use case in this example when the valuations are just so distorted. But oh my gosh, like anybody who's following this, what are the comments? That is what I want to check out.
The other one, how is a $100,000 house with 10K in renovation appraised out 200? Yeah, unrealistic numbers.
Find someone with 100K in cash laying around. Got it.
Yeah,
we got it.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of figured this one out.
Yeah, and here's like forgot to add 10 to 12% interest. Oh, and that's the other thing is that with these particular loans, some of them come with exit clauses.
Yep,
so you can't even just pay it off and get rid of it. They say, no, we took the time to underwrite the deal. We took the time to like review the deal, make sure that this is something that we were comfortable doing and lending on, et cetera, that they do all of that stuff, right? So sometimes they'll charge you a fee up front as well. So they'll say there's a $750 application fee or a $1,000 application fee plus 1% of whatever we loan you, right? And that has to be paid up front. And then sometimes what they'll do is they'll say, and if you want to exit this contract, there's a time frame. You can't do it in the next 6 months. You can't do it the next 8 months, or you will pay $4,000 or $5,000. Like they have a certain amount of money that they are intending to make up that mortgage, and they're going to make it off of you either through interest or fees, one or the other. So that is a bit dangerous.
Yeah, don't follow that advice.
Yeah, that is terrible advice. All right, here's the next one.
Tell me you're a real estate agent without telling me you're a real estate agent. I'll go first. Hello?
Ryan, how's my open house going?
Your open house? I'm there right now, and it is packed.
Good. That's all I like to hear.
Totally getting it sold today. Tell me you're a real estate.
That is exactly what my open houses look like.
Do people even do open houses anymore?
Well, COVID shut those down, but we are allowed to do them again.
Okay.
I don't do them very consistently. I find they're not overly well attended. I do people that have had success with them. And by success as an agent, I mean, I got a new buyer that I can sell them a different house. Not very often do open houses sell the house that you're sitting in.
Right. So you took this, you saw this video and you saw this on a different level where it's like the value of an open house is like, meh, it's whatever. Right. I took this a little bit differently. The dude's freaking lying to his client.
Well, that too.
like the guy straight up is saying, oh yeah, it's packed, man. Like there's nobody there. So, oh yeah, look, I'm going to show you the comments. It's like, so lying to your clients, like and I think this is a real realtor in the States. Like,
yeah, it is.
Why?
I recognize him.
Kind of good
one of these TV shows.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good look, admitting that you're not. So now imagine you hire this guy, just putting myself in those shoes. imagine you hire this guy now and he says, yeah, I'm at your open house. I'd remember this TikTok and be like, is he actually? But I get the sentiment now that you say it. You're saying basically, yeah, open houses are a thing of the past, but people still request them, and as a result,
and maybe it's my market, right? Maybe in other markets it's super popular. We just don't see it very much. They're not generally well attended.
Yeah,
I mean, you probably noticed it driving around. How many open house signs have you seen recently?
Yeah, well, even years ago, like prior to COVID being a thing, I remember like going to real estate agents' open houses, and I would sit there and like try to do like the whole mortgage approval thing as people walked through the door, just so that people could be like, "Hey, can I buy this? Can I not?" Right? And it didn't have a ton of success, mostly because like I'm gonna pull a number out of my butt, but it's like 90% of the people who walk through that door aren't even actively looking for a house, let alone that one, right? Like they're like window shopping, and the other
Nosy
like
neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. Nosy neighbors, 9.9999% of them are buying a house, but almost definitely not that one. And then there's like the 0.00001 that might be there for that particular one, but it's such a small number that I'm gonna have to. I won't put you on the spot, but like, unless you can think of something, but like the whole "tell me you're a real estate agent" without telling me you're a real estate agent. If you ever think of something, let me know, because I think that one's
with that.
All right. There's 2 left.
Ooh.
I know.
Save the last ones or the best ones for last here?
No, they're not in any order. Remember, I don't know what they are, right? Like
we're going to get a zero money down one again here.
It's a what?
Another zero money down.
Yeah. There's so many of those. It's ridiculous. All right, here's the next one.
Here's the number one thing you should do if you're thinking of selling your home.
The number one thing you should do if you're thinking of selling your home is be completely moved out of that house before you try to sell your home. If you try to sell your home while you're still living there, when a buyer comes to look at that house, they're going to have a hard time imagining their stuff being in that house. But whenever you have all that house empty, they can begin to imagine and visualize their stuff there. Ultimately, you will sell your house a lot faster and for more money.
Hey guys, if you found this video helpful, please give it a heart.
Yes and no. We'll start with
give him the benefit of a doubt. Give him the yes first.
I get where he's actually going, because this is a little bit what I talk about in terms of buyers having trouble imagining themselves in the house. Yes, that is a real thing. So when I have people with listings, I tell them, take your personal photos off the walls. Take all of that, because especially in smaller cities like ours, people were social creatures. As soon as we see photos, we are drawn to that photo. And then the way our minds work is, do I know this person? And now they're not thinking about buying the house. They're thinking about, do I know this person? And if they do know the person, I know as a showing, that showing is probably dead in the water. If they go, oh, yeah, this is my friend Joe's sister's house, and they start to
interesting
Joe's sister or whatever, right? They're not thinking about anymore. At this point, I'm like, let's just turn around and walk out, because their mindset is gone. So yes, there's some truth to that. Like I guess the theory is right. Vacant houses can be harder to sell because you can't see how things fit. So for example, a king size bed and a master bedroom, if you can see how it fits there, I tell people my wingspan is actually, just about what a king size bed is. So I actually stand against the wall and spread my arms out. Okay, that's how big king size bed is. But it does actually matter. And vacant houses sometimes can feel almost uninviting, because you get the echoey from your voice that's really cold and empty and lifeless. So kind of 50-50.
And for me, and years ago, actually, we had a listing that had a ton of like Catholic memorabilia stuff, like lots of statues and crosses and pictures and paintings, and like it was like decked to the nines and stuff like that. And I remember the real estate agent walking in and being like, what if someone Hindu wants to buy this place? Like they're going to have a hard time imagining like that stuff, right? And I remember I remember there being like an argument going back and forth, and the person ended up just saying no, like saying to the agent, like, look, this is not happening. Like I'm keeping this up. And so they did, and it took a while to sell until eventually another Catholic couple came in and was like, oh my gosh, this is lovely. Like what a beautiful home. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was like the opposite effect, right? So I mean, it had that thing, but it's interesting that you mentioned though, like with the with it feeling vacant. Because my first thought wasn't like that, even the house perspective. I guess I'm a finance mind, so that makes sense. But I thought instantly, what's the cost? Where are these people living that they can just afford to move out? Like,
wow. There's that too. I'll back this up one step. You talked about what you saw in that house. I was in a house, and I kid you not, I should have taken a photo of this. We walked down the stairs, and they had like a little kind of office space set up. And I almost think these sellers put this out on purpose for the shock value, because sitting on the desk, very blatantly obvious, was a copy of Mein Kampf.
Whoa.
And I was like, wow.
There's no way. Yeah, there's no way that's an accident.
So I assume that was on purpose. But then I went, what were you trying to achieve?
Unless someone's just casually reading Mein Kampf.
Yeah. Like,
that's an interesting, yeah.
So,
wow.
But yeah, I don't know. Vacant houses.
Well,
It
even
also,
like,
like if the person is maybe they've outgrown the house and they're really densely packed in there, that can be an advantage too. Because again, if it feels too cozy and claustrophobic, that can hurt you.
I like how you use cozy there. Right on. Even like, so we had another listing that I was working on, and I had referenced this in a video like many videos ago, but we walked in, or there was these 4 load bearing bolts, and they did not remove the load bearing bolts. They should have. And of course, everyone's wondering why 4 load bearing bolts are in the roof, right? So it's like they vacated the entire property except for these 4 bolts. So of course, like, because there's nothing else to look at, everyone's looking up and going like, why are these bolts there? And then so we're like, okay. So then of course the inspector was like, well, we need to find out like what those are for. Maybe there's like a structural purpose for it or whatever. And no, it turns out it was for a sex swing. And that particular room was carpet. So like all of a sudden, like the offer comes back, it says like, gotta remove carpet.
Yep.
Like there's all sorts of, or even like one time I went into a listing, and this is something I do now too. When I have clients that go into listings, because realtors, Matt, I'm telling you, they can be shysters sometimes, you know. But I was sitting in the open house. So this was years ago, obviously, and I remember like looking around, and I don't consider myself too much of a savant as far as like fashion and style and like decorating and stuff like that. And in fact, I need a lot of help with it. But I remember sitting in the couch, and even I noticed that this area rug was just like, did not fit. And I was like, what? Like, why is this area rug there? I'm like, clearly this was like brought in. Right. And I was like, and then I even joked with I joked with the realtor. I was like, oh, look how ugly this rug is. And she's like, I brought this in. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, why'd you bring an area rug in? She's like, oh, because the dog scratched the whole floor. So I'm covering up the major scratches. And I'm like, yes.
Yep.
So sometimes the furniture has multiple impacts on a sale price, and probably not for the good reason there. All right, I'll pull up the next one here. This is
the last one.
Our last one.
So here we have a carpet protector that was put down to protect the carpet, but instead, no, they cut the carpet out and put the carpet protector on the cement. We love it.
We love it.
Here we have.
I love it. It was like, we love it.
Okay, so I did a video on things I've seen in showings or crazy stories about real estate. And I didn't tell in that video whether they were true to me, whether I'd been a part of them. This one is one that I was involved in, where in the house, back this up a little more, the home inspector phones me and says, hey, you on your way? And I said, yeah, I'm on my way. He goes, okay, go ahead, talk when you get here. I'm going, okay, what's wrong with the house? Go in. I go, what's wrong with the house? He goes, go upstairs to that bedroom. There's kind of like this extra ensuite alcove area. It's not a bathroom, but just kind of extra space in this bedroom. Okay. I'm like, why? He goes, just go up there. And so I go up there, and underneath a blanket in a chair is what I assume, because I don't have a lot of experience in this, was a very expensive looking sex doll. And it's really nice to know how you're going to react in that situation, because I'm pretty sure I ran out of the room crying. But then I now have to go, okay, the homeowner.
Wait, hold on. Well, back up. How did you know it was expensive there, Matt?
I don't know. How do you
know a cheap one from an expensive one?
It looked high quality. So,
okay, continue.
But the other problem becomes now is the homeowner or student homeowners are going to be there in about 5 minutes. So how do we explain this away? But the bigger problem is the only person who had seen this house at this point was one of the parents. The other parent and the children had not seen the house. So we're going to have to do a full tour of the house, and I'm not sure how I'm going to avoid the sex doll.
How did you avoid it? Did you like call it out, or did you just like hide it in the closet?
I went up to the room and I put my back to this space and I just did, here's the room. Take a look. I really hope you don't want to look behind me.
Holy man, that's super, super funny. How like are these adult children or are these like kids?
They were kids.
Look, mommy, there's a doll.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's way too funny. Yeah, some people's children. But I just think it's funny because even if you look at the carpet itself, I mean, that carpet's got to go regardless. Like even look at the comments. It's like, I mean, let's be honest. No one was keeping the red carpet anyway. I mean, that's a pretty nasty carpet. But that is too funny.
I was in a house once with a carpet on the basement walls. Just lovely. It was about that style and color too.
It's like a decoration. Is that the intent?
It honestly, it felt like I was inside of Elmo.
Oh, so this isn't like a pony wall where it's like half up. It's like the full wall.
No, it's the full wall.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. It's like someone's like, oh, we got all this extra carpet. It's cheaper than wallpaper, I guess. But it wouldn't be. Wallpaper would be cheaper than installing carpet. Oh, man, some people's children. Well, man, I appreciate that you came on onto the live stream with me.
I appreciate you having me on.
Second ever live stream. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I love it. It was good.
And once again, guys, this is Matthew Pfeifer from the Bald Prairie Real Estate YouTube channel. So if you like my channel, if you like my videos and you haven't seen his yet, I do have his channel in the description below. Make sure you go check out his. You won't be disappointed. Take care, guys. Until the next one.